Hello, welcome to the Bigger Truth Show. I am Scott McMahon, and we've got a good show here. I think we're going to be talking about where I see Steve Bannon likes to say signal, not noise, and there's a lot of noise, a lot of noise. I think that, in my opinion, most of all of the talk about who Trump is picking for what is noise. I think that um, it's not so much ultimately about who he's choosing right now that's important. It's what he's going to do and what they're going to do. I think that we're going to see with time. We elected President Trump, we chose him, and um and so I think that now what we do is we just trust him to do what he thinks is right. And there's some signal that I see, which is really the signal here is what Trump says. What Trump says is the signal, and what everybody else says about what they think Trump is going to do, that's noise. And that's a pretty clear and easy way to discern signal from noise here. And so that's what we're going to look at. I'm going to look at a little bit, a couple other things. First, I'm just going to start with this little video, and this is Flynn saying in his own words that he does not have and will not have a job, just as I've been saying, and I've been saying this for months. Flynn is not going to have a role in a Trump administration. Trump does not want to have anything to do with Flynn, and I've been extremely confident about that because of what I've been told about what's going on in Flynn's inner circle. So let's go ahead and.
So I wanted to ask you then, I don't know if you can answer, but are there any plans for you to serve in the upcoming Trump administration?
None.
That's it. That was easy. All right. What do you?
You can just see. I mean, it sounds so sad. I'm going to play that again.
Administration?
None.
That's it. That was easy. All right. What do you? What,
I mean, it's sad. It's kind of sad.
what would you like to see happen then moving forward?
No, I'm a little tongue in cheek, but right now I don't have any plans, and
all right, so he has no plans, and it's pretty clear to me, anyways, as I'm looking at this, in my opinion, that he has no plans because he knows that he's not going to get chosen. And I actually think that he's probably been told, not only are you not going to get chosen, but stop telling people what we're choosing and who we're choosing. So I think, it is very, very clear that Flynn is not going to be chosen. And there's a lot of people, the whole Flynn camp is really imploding. I just got sent a post by, this is somebody he's come out and said some things about me in the past, but it's SSG_G, the at the parasite guy. And that's his handle on X. And I'm just going to read it because I just got this right as I was going online here. And it says, pay attention to those going above and beyond to launch nonstop anti-Flynn attacks. They'll try and convince you they're Trump supporters. I mean, this is just pure projection, right? And they'll tell you that Flynn has been running psyops on the American people. Yep. They'll claim that Flynn recited a satanic prayer. Yep, he did. He did. And was the power of attorney for George Soros. I've never said that. I have no idea what he's talking about there. And if he was, that's kind of crazy, but I don't think that that's true. It's all noise. So here we go. Signal and noise, right? Why are they screaming so much? I don't think I've ever screamed. If I have, let me know. But I'm not really a screamer. And I don't know. I haven't seen, maybe Mike Gill, maybe he's been screaming. I don't know. I don't know who's been screaming. But why are they so obsessed? And I'm just trying to preach. I don't think it's an obsession either. I'm happy to talk about other things, and I do. We'll find out within the next couple of months if anyone in the Flynn family has a role in the Trump administration. So yeah, so now they're pushing it back, right? So now, okay, it's clear that nobody, and he says in the Flynn family, who else are they going to choose? Charlie Flynn? The guy that just resigned, Joe Flynn. No, they're not going to choose Joe Flynn. Are they going to choose Mary Flynn? Who else? What other Flynn Jr.? Like who else in the Flynn family would they choose? I don't know. Or they talk about the Flynn Network, and he doesn't want to say the Flynn Network. Yeah. Patrick Byrne has nominated himself on some website that he may control. He's nominated himself for a position within Trump's team, and it's pretty clear that that's not going to happen. So, anyways, I think that's all quite funny. They are they're sowing at the same time, and what I'm seeing more and more of, as I talked about even last week, is that they're going to try to drive a wedge between us and Trump as much as they can. They're putting forward already all kinds of narratives about Trump's, they're criticizing Trump's picks for various positions. And I think, for the most part, I think he's making really good picks. So, one thing that's interesting is I was just looking on Truth Social, which is kind of where you get it from the horse's mouth for President Trump, because he's posting there himself. And I don't see anything about Marco Rubio for Secretary of State. So we'll see what happens there. And now the other thing that just happened is the Senate just voted to make John Thune the Senate Majority Leader, and there's a lot of the whole Flynn network is really activated on that, trying to make you feel very angry about that. And it's pretty wild. If you scroll through X, you just look up John Thune, you will see the entire Flynn network in unified fashion putting out tweets trying to make you feel very angry about John Thune being the Senate Majority Leader. Now, I'm pretty ambivalent about this. I said on Monday that I don't think that it matters that much. I think that Trump can work with and negotiate with anybody. He did with McConnell, and the most important function of the Senate, and this is what we need to remember: the most important function of the Senate, especially for the next 2 years, is quickly approving Trump's appointments, and especially his judicial appointments. And so we need those. The Senate is where those things are confirmed, and we need to make sure that happens quickly. And I'm sure Trump is on that, communicating with John Thune. And I'm not sure when Thune faces reelection. I don't think he was just reelected, so it's either in 2 years or in 4 years. And if I would imagine that if he does not work with Trump, that would hurt his reelection, and he obviously knows that. So, I think that all of this anger, I didn't really understand why it was so important to people to choose Rick Scott. I don't see where he's all that much better than the other two guys. So I think that this is, again, I think this is a sideshow. I don't think that this is really that important. And part of that is because Trump didn't really talk about it that much. So, it didn't seem that important to him. And so, and he's the one that's got to work with these guys. So I think, the bottom line, and I just keep saying this over and over again, is if somebody is in the media and they're trying to make you feel angry or scared or hopeless, it's a psyop. And let's just reject that. We don't need to feel that way about anything that these people are doing. I want to provide an example of this. I was sent this morning, and then I promise we'll get into Trump's words. But this is sent to me this morning, and I think it's a real good example of how these people. This is not journalism. What you're about to see here.
Tonight, Patriots were connecting the dots to paint a chilling picture. 300 and
okay, so just right away, I don't talk about connecting the dots. I think we need to follow evidence, and it's very easy to take a dot over here and a dot over to there and say they're connected when they're not really. And that's exactly what this guy does. I watched the whole lousy 20-minute thing. The guy's got like 2.5 million followers on YouTube. This video already has about 300,000 views. A lot of people are watching it. But even just look at the imagery here. It's all like Trump figures. He's just saying Trump. I'm with Trump. I'm with Trump. I'm with Trump. But are they? I mean, is what he's doing really helping Trump? Let's look on it. And he says, I'm just going to play this first few seconds again because this is important.
Tonight, Patriots were connecting the dots to paint a chilling picture.
Okay, so a chilling picture. Okay.
350 FEMA trucks mysteriously appear at a Michigan airbase strategically positioned near Wisconsin's contested election site.
Okay. All right. So this is false. The FEMA trucks are not in Michigan. They are nowhere near Michigan. There was a city council or a county commissioner meeting. I'm not sure which. I think it was a county commission meeting where they talked about a closed Air Force base, uh, potentially being used as a staging ground at some point in the future for up to 350 FEMA trucks. And so saying that they're mysteriously appearing, there wasn't much of an announcement or fanfare. It was saying that it was going to service 6 counties. And there's a lot of potential explanations for this. I mean, the big one is maybe there's just no presence right now, or they felt that they needed more of an emergency preparedness presence in Michigan at some point in the future. It's not something that's going to happen right now. And then he's connecting this with Wisconsin's contested election sites. Huh? And he says,
Coincidence? Not likely. The same agency caught discriminating
okay, so this is connecting dots that have nothing to do with each other at all, and these dots aren't even dots. It's not even what he's talking about. Isn't even real.
against Trump supporters is now staging massive resources in specific counties. Meanwhile, Wisconsin's Senate race flips through statistically impossible vote dumps. So what do they know that we don't, and why this location, and why now? Well, our sources suggest these aren't separate events. They're pieces of a larger operation that should terrify every American patriot.
All right, he's telling us we need to be terrified. You should be terrified. Especially American patriots.
Now, patriots, while FEMA positions their resources, you need to position yourself for safety on the road. Just like we're tracking suspicious FEMA movements, your dash cam could be tracking crucial evidence when you need it most. Recent reports.
Oh, it's all a grift. I just find this so funny. So he is, be very terrified and take that terror. This is what you could do with your fear. You could buy this car camera, dash cam. All right, I'm just gonna let go of that. As I've talked about, there are, if the explanation, if there's a very plausible explanation for an event that does not involve somebody trying to destroy this country or destroy you, uh that's something that we should probably consider first, especially if it's more plausible and more probable than the other theory. So he actually goes on to say that the dots that he's connecting is he's saying that this connects with Racine, Wisconsin, and under a tunnel that they're digging under the lake, like miles deep, apparently, over to Michigan, and then up into this Air Force base, and that's why they're bringing in all those FEMA trucks. I'm sorry if I'm laughing and you believe this, but I just don't. So I just think that that's a little nuts. I think that there's some shady stuff going on in Racine, but there's some shady stuff going on in Flint, Michigan, Detroit, Michigan, really every city in the country. There is some level of corruption and shady. There is human trafficking going on all over the country. It's not unique to Racine. And I got into it with these people that think that Racine is the center of the whole universe and everything bad in the world goes through Racine, Wisconsin. And I just think I just don't buy it. So, if you want to believe that, I guess you're welcome to. And that's the wonderful thing about living in a country with a First Amendment, that we all have the right and freedom to believe that. But, no, I don't believe that Racine is the center of all the bad things that happen in the universe, and that all the bad people in the world have connections with Racine. I think that any place-based conspiracy theory is outside of perhaps Washington D.C. Is misplaced. So, So there's that. I think, just be wary of the people that are trying to tell you what to feel. Let's think clearly. Let's set the emotions aside and let's just really bring reason. And if we don't know something is true, let's not make it true. Because once we make it true and we start building our assumptions off of those things these things that we accept as facts when they're not facts, it's very hard to humble ourselves to challenge those assumptions. They know this is how they manipulate us psychologically. And so let's avoid that. All right, so let's get into Trump. I've been talking about those last couple shows and I just hadn't gotten to it. But I think this is really, really important.
Plan to dismantle the deep state and reclaim our democracy from Washington corruption once and for all.
Okay, so this is Signal right here. If you haven't seen this video, I'm going to take my time going through it, and I'm going to just kind of share my interpretation of what he's saying. You're welcome to chime in if you're watching live and add to it, and I welcome your interpretation as well. But this was published, I believe, just 2 days after Trump won. This is one of the first. He put out kind of a series of videos over the days after his victory. I think this is even on the 7th, so just less than a week ago. And it's kind of drowned out by all the talk about who's he going to appoint for what. And this is much more important, I believe, than who he is appointing for what. This really tells us what he intends to do. And so I think we should listen pretty carefully. And he's talking about dismantling the deep state, which I believe is the single most important issue in this country. I mean, we have this bureaucratic deep state that is trying to destroy our constitutional rights and freedoms. And we saw that with COVID, and it's pretty clear that that they intend to have complete and total tyrannical control over every aspect of our lives. And so we should, this is the reason, this is the biggest reason why we elected President Trump. And it's pretty clear by this talk that he knows it.
And corruption it is. First, I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively.
Okay, this is a big deal. So, and this is a 10-step plan that he's going to put out here, and so we'll talk about each one of these. So, in his first term, it was very clear that Trump was making he was making executive orders and giving direction. He's the commander in chief, and he was doing this not just the military, but all aspects of the executive branch of government, which is where the deep state really is. And they were just not following his orders. They were the reason why. I mean, he made a lot of progress in that first term despite all this, but it was probably a third of the bureaucrats who had been there under and placed there under Bush and Obama, that they just did not agree with him. So they did not want to follow what he was telling them to do. And so he's saying that, anybody who is not doing that is rogue. And he's saying that he's going to actually get rid of them. Now, this is a lot easier said than done, but we'll go on.
Second, we will clean out all of the corrupt actors in our national security and intelligence apparatus, and there are plenty of them. The departments and agencies that have been weaponized will be completely overhauled so that faceless bureaucrats will never again be able to target and persecute conservatives, Christians, or the left's political enemies, which they're doing now at a level that nobody can believe even possible.
Okay, so he's talking about, he says nameless bureaucrats, and that's really what we see. I mean, this goes back to even the IRS leading up before the 2012 election. The IRS under Lois Lerner and others, who mostly remained nameless, were persecuting deliberately conservative groups, and so that that's what he's talking about, and that's continued. That's only intensified since then. And so this is fantastic what he's talking about, and I really hope that he can follow through with it. So I think that there's this idea first of identifying the people who are doing, their own agenda, not the president's agenda. I mean, the president is responsible. He's not a dictator, but he is the executive branch. The president directs the executive branch. The executive branch needs to serve at the president's pleasure. That's if that doesn't happen, where our constitutional republic doesn't work. And so we need to have an executive branch that serves at the pleasure of the president and does what the president orders. And that is how we as voters are able to influence the executive branch. And that's what the deep state is this bureaucracy that has actually placed itself above the president. And because of that, it's placed itself above the people. And it's wrong. And I think that's something that we should all be able to unify around. And that's what he's speaking out against.
Third, we will totally reform FISA courts, which are so corrupt that the judges seemingly do not care when they are lied to in warrant applications. So many judges have seen so many applications that they know were wrong, or at least they must have known. They do nothing about it. They're lied to. Fourth,
okay, so that is a clear reference to Crossfire Hurricane, where they used a FISA warrant application on Carter Page to surveil everyone in Trump's campaign in 2016. And so that's definitely specifically aimed towards that, but it's not limited to that, because the FISA courts have allegedly been doing that to many Americans, that they were likely very much involved in the persecution of people who were at J6. And they use that for tapping of Americans' phones without knowing. There's a lot going on there. So this is what he's talking about here is really good.
To expose the hoaxes and abuses of power that have been tearing our country apart, we will establish a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to declassify and publish all documents on deep state spying, censorship, and corruption. And there are plenty of them.
Okay, so it keeps getting better here. So now he's talking about this is the exact opposite of what Biden was trying to create with this. I don't remember what it was even called, with Nina Jankovic or whatever her name was, who it was a disinformation, a truth commission, attacking what they called disinformation, which is anything that they disagreed with. This is the opposite of that. This is actually a commission designed at creating complete transparency of the government, opening up classified documents and putting it out in the public so that we can see the ways that our own government has been using its powers against the American people. And a lot of this is what I've been talking about with the psyops and the information warfare that's being waged against Americans through groups and individuals like Mike Flynn. This isn't just about Flynn, but it's people like him and Stanley McChrystal and many, many others that are deliberately engaged in utilizing military intelligence technology against the American people. And it's not just military intelligence. Part of military intelligence is spying. And so this is what they're doing. And it's just, I just am very, very excited. I think if we're tired of the psyops, which I certainly am, this really should be a breath of fresh air.
Fifth, we will launch a major crackdown on government leakers who collude with the fake news to deliberately weave false narratives and to subvert our government and our democracy.
Okay, so this was one of the biggest problems of Trump's first administration was people who were leaking confidential information, sensitive information about Trump's conversations with leaders of other countries, for example, the sensitive conversations that were being had throughout Trump's his administration and in the White House that never should have gone public, but were going public in ways specifically designed to try to thwart what he was doing. And so he's saying this is not going to fly. We're going to punish this. We're going to identify it and we're going to punish it, because it's an attack against this country. It's not just an attack against President Trump. It's not just an attack against one person. It's an attack against this whole country. And so I think, he is really coming in hot. And this is just like 24 hours after that he recorded this. As far as I know, this is right after when I saw this published was 24 hours after he was elected.
When possible, we will press criminal charges. Sixth, we will make every Inspector General's office independent and physically separated from the departments they oversee, so they do not become the protectors of the deep state. Seventh, I will ask Congress to establish an independent auditing system to continually monitor our intelligence agencies to ensure they are not spying on our citizens or running disinformation campaigns against the American people, or that
Oh, that right there is the money clip. To me, that is just the absolute money clip. So opening it up and having auditing so that this is exactly what I've been hoping and praying for. And this is the answer that we need. I mean, we have been subjected on the right and the left. And this is what I've been saying now for over almost 10 months. We have been subjected to a military intelligence operation. And what has happened within state parties, what has happened within the election integrity movement, what has happened even in Flynn's efforts to run narratives and psyops that were contradictory to the interests of the Trump campaign, trying to incite hopelessness and anger and fear instead of optimism, and a willingness to work and get out and vote. That he was doing the exact opposite of that. And I've talked a lot about people like Shelby Bush in Arizona, who instead of getting out the vote, instead of recruiting people to work the polls and do real election integrity work, she was out teaching people how to hand count ballots. She was traveling around the state using the county's resources and the state's resources and the money that she was getting from Patrick Byrne to travel around the state teaching people how to hand count ballots, which obviously was 100% completely worthless and a waste of time and resources. And now she's running for chair of the Maricopa County Republican Party. And from what I've been told, she's very likely to win.
that they are not spying on someone's campaign like they spied on my campaign. Eighth, we will continue the effort launched by the Trump administration to move parts of the sprawling federal bureaucracy to new locations outside the Washington swamp. Just as I moved the Bureau of Land Management to Colorado, as many as 100,000 government positions could be moved out, and I mean immediately, of Washington to places filled with patriots who love America.
And this is just awesome. So, we know that I think it's like 92% of people that live in Washington, D.C. are Democrat. Trump got like 8% of the vote in Washington, D.C. And so moving those jobs out of Washington, D.C. is just, it's a win-win for everybody involved. I think it'll make it more productive. It'll bring down the cost because the cost of living there is just unbelievable. And, you can't hire somebody for less than $100,000 a year from what I've been told in Washington, D.C. And so, it'll bring down the costs. It'll have real Americans actually, not just these bureaucrats, running our, and working for our federal government, which is just great. Farm Girl, you say, I hope he does what he says he's going to do. It would be amazing. Absolutely. And, he really does seem to be on a mission. And I think that he knows what's at stake. He knows he's got 4 years. He knows he's got to make it count. And everything that we have seen from him, especially over the last year and during his campaign, has just been excellent. It has been excellent. And he is really seeking excellence. And I think, in my opinion, you can see that in his appointments. The people that he's got around him share that pursuit of excellence. And he's a very results driven person. And so he's after these results. And this is the signal right here. This is the signal. All the other stuff about, political positioning for appointments and all that, that is noise. This is signal.
They really do love America. Ninth, I will work to ban federal bureaucrats from taking jobs at the companies they deal with and that they regulate. So they deal with these companies and they regulate these companies, and then they want to take jobs from these companies.
That is huge. So, and we see that all the time where you've got somebody that's working for, like the CDC or the FDA, and then they go get a job for Pfizer, or somebody that worked for Pfizer comes and gets an appointed position as the head of the Food and Drug Administration. Clear conflicts of interest, very, very clear conflicts of interest. And so he's saying, if you're going to work for the government, work for the government. That's fine, but don't expect a multi-million-dollar payout from one of the companies that you've been regulating afterwards.
It doesn't work that way. Such a public display cannot go on, and it's taking place all the time, like with Big Pharma. Finally, I will push a constitutional amendment to impose term limits on members of Congress. This is how I will shatter the deep state and restore government that is controlled by the people and for the people. Thank you very much.
Just fantastic. So, I think he's not even president yet. We've got a couple months, and I think one of the when I went to the Grand Rapids, Trump's very last rally in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and he didn't even take the stage until it was like 12:30 at night. And it was just because it was his fourth event of the day in 3 different states. And you know how at these events they pass out cards, like little signs and stuff. I have mine. I just realized I meant to have it, but I left it in the car. But it said my favorite was the first one that they were handing out, which is "Dream Big Again," and I just love that. I just love that. We have been led. We've been ever since 2020. We've been led and manipulated and deceived into dreaming small. And there's been so many things. It's kind of like we've been limited in so many ways. We've limited ourselves, I think. I can see that in ways that I have, and I can see how that's something that's happened all across the country. And part of that is these psyops that cause us to be fearful and angry and hopeless. And Trump is just, this is true leadership to encourage us to dream big and think big. and I don't know, all of this adrenaline that we're constantly being encouraged to feel over politics. I just don't know how necessary that is. And and I say that, I'm a county commissioner elect, and and I'm about to start my training for that. And I think it's important to get involved in local politics, and I'm walking my talk with that. But I think it's important that we get involved in our families, and we get involved in our, if there's a business idea that you've got, or some sort of dream that you have, or a desire that God's put in your heart, pursue it. Pursue it. So many of us, and myself included, have put things on hold to wait and see what happens with this election. Okay, the election's behind us. Let's get out there and it's ultimately it's up to us, to all of us, to make America great again. And we can't just sit back and wait for one person to take care of these things. And hopefully he does. And I don't know that he's going to accomplish all of those things, but I do know, and I'm very confident that it's going to be a whole lot better than what it would have been if Kami Kamala were in office. So, and that's a good thing. And all the people on the left who are, now, they're doing all the fear porn, and everything is on their side. And it's just, none of that is really necessary. So, I hope that we can build bridges and, start really leading by our example too, and dream big and do big things. I want to show you right now. It might just look funny, like what am I doing if you're watching? I want to show you. I want to introduce my doggy. This is Kobe. He's my golden retriever, and he's my Bubs. So, anyways, I think I think that we're facing a new, just a new time, and I don't personally buy into everything's going to be destroyed and rebuilt. I don't personally buy into the the thing about we're not a constitutional republic, we're a corporation. I think we're a nation of laws, and um, there's a lot of variance in how those laws are interpreted and applied, and how they're ruled on. And there's and often they're not, and there's a lot of injustice, and we're not going to get to a place where there's perfect justice. We're not going to see that. It's not going to happen. We're not going to get to some sort of a utopian vision where we're a perfect constitutional republic. I don't think we ever have been, and nor will we ever be. And so, I want to encourage you to not get worked up over what is or isn't happening, and whether or not John Thune or Rick Scott is the Senate Majority Leader. I don't see that as being something to get upset about. That's I don't have to deal with either of them. Trump does, and he's a big boy, and he's a good negotiator, and he can get the job done. He's not going to let he wouldn't let either one of those men, Rick Scott or John Thune, get in the way of what he wants to accomplish. He'll find the way to negotiate and get it done. And so he did that as much as he possibly could in his first term. And he's obviously, I think when you listen to what he just said there, it's very clear that he is that he's working to make things better, and that he's motivated, he's driven, and it's going to work. Now, I do want to talk about Kash Patel for just a minute. I want to move from there to Kash Patel, because there's all this there. So earlier in the week, there was all this talk about Flynn was promoting, and he said he and Clay Clark and the whole Flynn network was saying that Kash Patel was going to be the CIA director, and then John Ratcliffe became the CIA director. And then there's all this talk about as soon as that was announced, then they started saying he's going to be the FBI director. And I was just said something that Fox News is saying that Kash Patel is going to be the FBI director. I personally don't see it happening, and I'm going to share just two clips of him talking, which is kind of why I believe that from his own.
When you go back and is a senior member of this administration, President Trump's administration, starting in the afternoon of the 20th of January of 2025, do you feel confident that you will be able to deliver the goods, that we can have serious prosecutions and accountability? And I want the Morning Joe producers that watch us and all the producers that watch us, this is just not rhetoric. We're absolutely dead serious. We're not. You cannot have a constitutional republic and allow what these deep staters have done to the country.
And so, to be clear, I don't know when this was filmed, but this was before he went to prison, I'm pretty sure, because he lost a little bit of weight in prison. He doesn't quite look like that. Alpha Warrior said he is nominated for CIA. Say what? Patrick says, and yeah, I think Alpha Warrior did say, who's a Flynn Network podcaster. He said something about how he's nominating himself, or he's trying to promote himself for being CIA director. Bunch of clouds, right? So anyway, so Steve Bannon he assumes the close, right? He's saying, so when you're sworn in as whatever position you're sworn in, and it's some important position within Trump's administration on January 20th, what are you going to do? So let's hear it.
Deep state, the administrative state, the fourth branch of government never mentioned in the Constitution, is going to be taken apart brick by brick. And the people that did these evil deeds will be held accountable and prosecuted, criminal prosecutions. Cash, I know you're probably going to be head of the CIA, but do you believe that you can deliver the goods on this in a pretty short order the first couple of months so we can get rolling on prosecutions?
Yes, we got the bench for it, Bannon, and you know those guys. I'm not going to go out there and say their names right now so the radical left-wing media can terrorize them. But, excuse me, the one thing we learned in the Trump administration the first go-around is we got to put in all America patriots top to bottom. And we got them for law enforcement. We got them for intel collection. We got them for offensive operations. We got them for DOD, CIA, everywhere. And the one thing we will do that they never will do is we will follow the facts and the law and go to courts of law and correct these justices and lawyers who have been prosecuting these cases based on politics and actually issuing them as lawfare. We will go out and find the conspirators, not just in government, but in.
Okay, so up until this point, what Cash is saying sounds like it's rhyming pretty well with what Trump was saying. But here's where he goes off the rails.
In the media, yes, we're going to come after the people in the media who lied about American citizens, who helped Joe Biden rig presidential elections. We're going to come after you, whether it's criminally or civilly. We'll figure that out. But yeah, we're putting you all on notice. And Steve, this is why they hate us. This is why we're tyrannical. This is why we're dictators.
Okay, so it's hard for me not to see that as an anti-Trump narrative right there. Like they were doing that, in my opinion, to harm Trump's chances. I mean, you don't say you're going to go after the media. I mean, we have the First Amendment for very good reason. I mean, and certainly there is some really, there may be some rare exceptions where the media was deliberately coordinating with bad actors within the government, publishing things that they knew were deliberately false, and doing so, engaging in, deliberately in psychological operations. But aren't they doing this too? I mean, are they going to go after themselves? I don't know. And saying, we are tyrannical, we're dictators. And then this whole thing is putting that onto Trump. I mean, this is the whole, what I'm seeing here is an operation that is meant to try to harm Trump's electoral chances. That's what they were doing here. Now let's look at this one. This is just a clip from a Reawaken tour event.
You are asked to be the next attorney general of this country. Would you take the job?
And that's such a stupid question. Of course, who would say no? That's just a dumb question for blood.
I got one condition. Only if Mike Flynn is the next Secretary of Defense.
All right. Okay.
Okay, so put yourself in Eric Trump's shoes, or Don Jr.'s shoes, or Alina Habba's shoes, and especially Eric and Don Jr., and you're watching this. You're at the Reawaken tour events, and you're watching this, and you're watching these people as they're also putting out all kinds of narratives that the media is going to use to harm their father's chances in the election. And then he's saying stuff like this about taking away their dad's right to make his own choices, trying to make his choices for him. I don't think, this is why I think that they were really running an intelligence operation against these guys. They were keeping tabs of what they were doing. I can't imagine them having warm and fuzzies over this type of behavior. That's my opinion. Farm Girl says Bannon uses mainstream media for content. The mainstream media uses Bannon and his crew for content, and all they do is call each other out for clicks and money. Yeah, I think that's a really, it is this, circular kind of thing, and they definitely do. I agree. They do use each other, and they create the Flynn network creates the content, especially for the. I mean, just look at the headlines. It's the video that I put out 2 weeks ago that where I was standing in front of the lake and saying that, I'd love to go on any media that'll have me to talk about how Flynn is the enemy of Trump and the enemy of MAGA, because they were running the mainstream media put out a coordinated series of pieces against Flynn and Ivan Raiklin in particular that were tying them to Trump and saying that, here, look at what all the crazy, absolutely insane things that Ivan Raiklin is doing, and he's going to be Trump's Secretary of Retribution. And doing that right before the election, of course, that was a hit. That was kind of the best October surprise that they could muster, because everything else had fallen apart. Of course, that did too, which is fantastic. But that's the way they work. They're happy to have the media come and talk about them and the crazy stuff that they do, as long as it hurts Trump. And but when somebody like me comes along that from our side that says, no, they're actually working against Trump, that's the message that they really don't want out. And so because of that, because I really don't want that message out, I'm going to keep sharing it. And so that's where we're at. And we'll have another show tomorrow. I'm going to be on MG show tomorrow at noon Eastern. And that'll be live on X and Rumble, I believe. And so that should be fun. I've only been on, it's been a couple months since I was on before. And that was a great show. And I think we're going to be talking about Kari Lake and some other things, just kind of what's happening across the country. So it should be a lot of fun. Patrick says, if you took away Bannon and the Flynn network, including Jones, MAGA would be fully united. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, if you can imagine, what Trump could accomplish if he didn't have this faction within that was doing everything they could through intelligence operations to discredit him, to act insane, and to, it just, we would get to where we want to go a lot faster. If, I would say that one thing that we can do to help Trump to accomplish his objectives is even to get involved in our local Republican Party and to bring reason and sanity to the local party and then to the state party and wherever it is, because they are working very, very hard at taking over the state Republican parties and using that to destroy the party. And I've talked about that quite a bit. Up North says, do you think Tulsi's appointment to DNI will help this? I don't know. Did that just happen? I haven't seen that yet. I've been watching Truth Social for the for what's going on, and so I don't know if that's. I'm just looking here. Yep, it looks like it is. So that happened, I think, since I started going live just 34 minutes ago. Trump posted that to Truth Social. So Tulsi Gabbard is going to be the DNI director, or the director of national intelligence. So we will see. I think that she certainly does have military experience, and I'm certain that she has some level of military intelligence training. And I think that she's sincere in her desire to help Trump, and she's been very much involved in his campaign, and he obviously trusts her. So we will see. I don't think that she is connected with the Flynn network. I don't think that she's connected with the deep state. I mean, she's for the most part a voice of reason. We will see. She certainly doesn't want endless wars. She certainly has been very vocal opponent of intelligence being used against us. And I would say, from the things that I've seen her say, and I don't know her personally. I haven't done much of a deep dive into her background. Obviously, she was a Democrat until recently. But I think that she, it's kind of like Chris, is it Hegseth? That, he was an infantryman and now he's going to be above the 3 and 4 star generals. And there's a real poetic justice there. And so I think, putting somebody like that from kind of the bottom and putting them at the top, somebody who's a very good communicator who is loyal to Trump. I do believe that she's loyal to Trump. We'll see what happens. It can't get any worse than it is now, right? Can it? Maybe it could. And oh wow, Matt Gaetz is Attorney General. Oh, I'm not so happy about that one. That's, yeah, if that's true, I haven't looked that one up. But if that's true, Matt Gaetz is Attorney General. Oh. He's very close with Roger Stone. So, yeah. Well, we will see. Farm Girl, has Trump picked anyone from the Flynn Network yet? And that would be Matt Gaetz. He's very yeah. Roger Stone worked very closely with Matt Gaetz in his first campaign, and I've got a story that I've been working on about that. So, oh well. You get my first immediate reaction. Oh, I wish you would have picked Matt Gaetz, but we'll see what happens. And all I can say is trust Trump. Yeah, he definitely knows more than us and has a no-fail mission to get Agenda 47 accomplished, which is true. And I think that if it's looking like it's not working out, I think he's got, I don't think that he would be slow to change course if it's not working out. Whether it's Matt Gaetz or anybody else, I think that he would probably change course. So, yeah. So there we go. And really in the end, God is in charge. God is sovereign over all of this. And I would say that of the only one that I can say that of everybody that he's chosen right now that has connections to the Flynn Network is Matt Gaetz. So and the head of the DOJ is a big one. But well, that would be the Attorney General, right? So and maybe you're talking about FBI, but the Attorney General is the head of the FBI, so that of the DOJ. So that would be Matt Gaetz. Yeah. Yep. God's truth says Matt Gaetz. Ugh. Yep. So it is. But you know what? We will see what happens. And I think especially those in Florida, as you are, God's truth wins. There are, I think people in Florida, at least the people that I talk to in Florida, they know that they don't like Matt Gaetz. But here we are, and we will see what he does. And certainly there will be a lot of pressure on him to perform. What's interesting too, and just as an aside here, and is how many U.S. reps, how many congressmen he has chosen. And he kind of talked about that with Joe Rogan, where he said, political guys have been political people, not just men, but people in politics, they're vetted by the people. And so, whatever skeletons they have in the closet, they've already come out by now. So in a lot of ways, a political, choosing a politician is safer. And so, which is, I thought that was interesting when he said that. And it also means we're going to see some special elections come early next year because this is going to create a bunch of vacancies. So Matt Gaetz is no longer in Congress, or at least he won't be, come January. And the truth is too, Matt Gaetz can get stuff done, and he talks a big talk. So, we'll see if he can walk it. We'll see, and if he can clean up the DOJ, and lead it kind of in a new direction and accomplish what Trump has set out to accomplish, more power to him. I would cheerlead him all the way. And maybe he's still not working with Roger Stone. Maybe he's fired him. Maybe he's recognized who he is and completely cut ties there. I don't know. I kind of don't think so, but I don't have any proof one way or the other. If you do, you're welcome to share it with me. Up north says, what do you think about Rubio just getting Secretary of State? Well, yeah, I talked about Thune earlier in this show that I don't think that matters that much. I think that Trump can work with anybody. I think Thune is probably better than Mitch McConnell, whose wife's father, so Mitch McConnell's father-in-law, is friends with President Xi. He runs this Chinese shipping company. He's a Chinese guy who runs this Chinese shipping company, and is actually friends with Xi. So that's his father. So I don't think we get worse than McConnell. So Thune's probably an improvement over McConnell, and Trump was able to work with McConnell, so I think Trump will be able to work with him. I never saw where Rick Scott was all that much better than Thune, so I didn't get all that worked up over that. I don't think that that's a big deal. And has Rubio been announced? Because I know that they've been saying it, but I haven't seen where it's actually been announced. Oh yeah, it is announced. So I actually like Marco Rubio. I think he's branded kind of a moderate, but I think he's also shown that, especially over the last 4 years, I think he has consistently worked with President Trump, and I think that as far as Secretary of State, I think he's a diplomatic person, and that's what we need. And I think that he will definitely be aligned with Trump's foreign policy, and so I think that's a good choice. And maybe he's closer to Trump than Roger Stone, and I would certainly, going forward, I'm certain that will be the case. If he is working as the Attorney General of the United States, he will certainly be closer to Trump than Roger Stone. So, and that's a good point. And he does seem loyal to Trump, and usually that's what Trump looks for. And yeah, I mean, the reality is, I can't see. I don't have a crystal ball into the future, and nobody does, and not even Trump does. Trump said at a rally that there was a secret that he and Matt Gaetz had. Oh boy, I'm sure that Matt Gaetz has lots of secrets. I'm sure he's got lots of secrets, and not the least of which is the story about his sexual escapades with teenagers, but that has been very much covered up. So and Roger Stone had a hand in that cover up there, and that's part of the story that I've been researching and working on, but I do believe there's a lot of truth to that. So, but we will we'll just continue, and I'm sure his wife does too. Yeah, I've been told actually that his wife is a beard. Somebody in the RNC said, "Oh, Matt Gaetz is gay, and his wife is a beard is just a beard, make it look like he's a manly man." I don't know if that's true or not. And yes, I think from 2015, the plan has been playing out with a lot of downs, but it's going to take some time. Some big truths are better than none. Yep. And really, I think where our focus should be is incremental improvement. That's really where my focus is I want to see things get better. I don't expect things to get perfect. We're never going to live in a utopia, and striving for a utopia really always ends in chaos and destruction. So, I think that it hasn't even been a week. It's been 1 week now since we learned that Trump was going to be our next president, and so much has happened in that week, and it's good. And it's interesting that the left and the media seems to be really retooling, and they're trying to figure out what's next. And I think that I talked to somebody, and I think this is probably a good thing that I can part with is I was talking to a friend who has a child who works in the DoD with 1 and 2 star generals, and I asked what is as far as this person can tell, what's the temperature within the DoD, within the rank and file about this change, and there is a lot of warmth, and there's a lot of anticipation. What I was told is that the DoD, they're taught to follow orders, and so when they were ordered to take these DEI classes and all this stuff. They followed orders and they did it, you know, and even if they didn't like it, and so they're looking forward to a different set of orders to follow and to really be made into the best military on earth, which is what we want, because that, you know, just like Trump says, peace through strength. So and I think that even with, and I've been looking into, I found just kind of some information newsletters and stuff for kind of for the deep state and by the deep state. And I've been looking into those, and I'll share more of those later. And I kind of expected there to be more freak out, you know, more like fear and panic. There's none of that. There is, you know, things are going to change, and there's a little bit of anticipation over that, you know, but it's not the overtly like, this is terrible, this is the end of the world kind of thing that I would have expected. So I think that there's a general sense that somehow it's all going to be okay. And at least that's my sense. And maybe I'm looking through rose-colored glasses. Maybe I'll be wrong, but we will see. Um, well, thank you up north. I appreciate you. So thank you for your great show and your intelligent opinions. I'm not sure. I'm just trying to look at this clearly and without the emotion. I think that that's what we all need to do. Um, and a couple more comments. We must remember the world is watching. America is the battleground. Winner takes all. Absolutely. And I think, Patrick, you are not even in this country, right? Aren't you in the UK? Susie Wiles' son is my aunt's realtor. They're good people. It's funny watching people flip out over these picks. Yeah. And, you know, these are, I think it's important to remember, yeah, these are real people. And I have defended Susie Wiles and Chris LaCivita for a long time, as I've been watching for months now, as I've been watching these, the Flynn Network go after, especially them. And the reason why they were going after them is because they're good at what they do. That's what they do. That's what the Flynn Network does. They go after the people who are the most capable, and they try to destroy them and drive them out. And I was talking to somebody in Oregon that the Oregon party is completely lost. They have successfully driven out so many of the best people within the Republican Party in Oregon. And they made some really huge mistakes, the party did, that resulted in, I mean, it's possible that Trump even could have won Oregon had the Republican Party actually been functional in Oregon. But they end up, now the Democrats have a super majority in the state house and Senate, and it's pretty bad. So yeah, and Sunshine Sue Q says that's why they're going after me. Maybe so. But you know what? Bring it. I've been saying since the first time I went on the MG show, I really I trust the Lord, and I mean, he's given me new life in him, and I trust him. And I through the scriptures I have learned, and through his grace, it's not any power of my own. I really only fear the Lord. I do not fear man. And so, you know, what's the worst they can take away from me? You know, they can send me to heaven. There's you know, I want to see what is true and good and right. And I'm gonna make mistakes, and we all are. And so yeah, I appreciate all of you, and I'm excited to see how you know, how many people are just waking up and saying, I'm tired of the psyops. I'm tired of being emotionally manipulated. I just want to know what's true and go on with my life. And I think that's where we are. Let's dream big again. Let's let Trump fix things. You know, let's support him, and let's not rush to judgment. Let's, you know, just kind of, if we hear something that sounds kind of scary, let's give it 24 hours before we say, okay, yeah, that's true. And let's see what actually comes out. So we're good. This has been a good show. I really appreciate y'all coming. And tomorrow I've got something new that I'm going to share that has been shared with me, and it's pretty interesting. It's about the CIA and some organizations that involve the deep state. So I'm going to share that, and also tune in on the MG show tomorrow. I think it's going to be a good one. So peace out.